We'll start off this evening with a word of prayer. I'm going to ask Ambrose Carter if you would open for us in prayer.
Sure, no problem. Father, in Jesus' name, we approach the throne of grace even now. We thank you for your goodness and your mercy. We thank you for these individuals assembled here this afternoon. We pray that you continue to bless us there, Father, and help us to bring honor and glory to your name and in all that we say and do. In Jesus' name, I ask thee. Amen.
Amen. So once again, welcome to the Community Conversations. This evening, we'll be discussing the all-important topic, is Christian radio necessary today? And with me, I have Ambrose Carter, Tamara Yearwood, but I'll refer to her as Octavia, and joining us from the lovely island of St. Vincent, which I have not had the pleasure to visit as yet, is Darian Daniel. So this evening, as we start off, I'd just like my fellow participants to just tell us a bit about yourself and about your involvement in radio, whether it be gospel radio or secular, but right now, because it may be that it is secular too as well, but tell us a bit about your involvement in radio. And we're going to start with the lady first, because you're the only lady tonight, looking very lovely, smiling beautifully. So Octavia, tell us about yourself and your involvement in radio.
Good evening, everyone. As Sean would have said, my name is Tamara Yearwood. My middle name is Octavia, and that is the stage name that I use because I'm a gospel artist. I go to Paynes Bay Pentecostal Church. I'm the worship director there, mother of 2 children, girl and boy, 1 husband, Charles Yearwood. And involvement in radio, well, to be honest with you, I only started this year. So it is new, but it's exciting and very different.
All right, thank you very much. And Darian, your turn.
A pleasant evening to everyone. My name is Darian Daniel, and since we're discussing gospel, the gospel is truth. So I tell you, I'm from the most wonderful nation on earth, St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
You mean Barbados, right?
So I'm from St. Vincent, and let's see, I am the last of 5 children for my parents, and I am currently involved with Praise FM St. Vincent and the Grenadines as an assistant manager. And I love the Lord. I think my testimony, I like to tell people, is I am not ashamed of the gospel of Christ, for it is the power of God unto salvation to everyone who believes, to the Jew first and also to the Greek. So I had simply say I'm an ambassador for Christ and proud to be living for Jesus. No children.
Oh, don't worry, that might be coming. Ambrose Carter.
Yeah, well, like you heard, my name is Ambrose Carter. I've been involved in ministry for a little bit now, and my involvement with radio dates back to the 1980s, early days. And I find that, you know, it's a good way, a good medium to get the word, the gospel across. I think it's still a good way to get the gospel out. There may be some things that we may need to tweak, but yes, I think it's still relevant.
Okay. Well, thank you all for introducing yourself. Now, Darian, you spoke about Praise FM in St. Vincent. I'm going to give you just a brief opportunity to tell us a bit more about Praise FM and also the gospel scene in St. Vincent, if you might.
All right, so Praise FM got started officially on June the 24th, 1998. We got started out of a vision from Pastor Errol Daniel, my father, who, well, he's always into missions, has always been, still is always into missions. And he's the type of a person who believes that the gospel must be preached and we must do everything that we can to get the gospel out. So, you know, on the secular radio here, you have various ministries, may get a 15-minute program, a half-hour program. And I guess if you're lucky, you may get a 1-hour program. But my dad believed that the gospel should be preached nonstop. And with that vision in mind, we worked together with the help of the People's Cathedral Barbados in terms of supporting us to get some equipment to get Praise FM started. And since then, we've been broadcasting the gospel nonstop. We had very humble beginnings, and we're growing steadily. But what is even more impressive than the equipment is the reach and the results that we have been getting from persons testifying how much the gospel means to them, how much we have various persons saying, you know, how blessed they are, how transformed their lives are as a result of having the gospel. So I think that's in a nutshell of where we've come from. And today we're able to even team up with you, as we do from time to time, as we just do our very best, using every medium possible to evangelize our world with the gospel. As for the gospel scene in St. Vincent, there are various sides to it. But in a nutshell, yes, we have the gospel going, but I believe there's a whole lot of room for improvement. And in my opinion, this comes when persons really understand the value of the gospel, when they really understand how powerful the gospel is. And the tool that we have of radio, if we really understood that, that would clarify a whole lot of our doubts and misconceptions.
All right, Octavia, as being the baby amongst us, you said you're new to Christ is the Answer 90.1 FM. How has the experience been for you, interacting with people on radio and stuff like that?
It has been different. You have to learn to kind of, for the lack of a better word, talk to yourself, because you're not seeing people there. You know that the people are there, but it's like you're talking to yourself because nobody's actually physically in front of you. But it has been a very, very good experience. I started off with the 2 to 6 shift, which wasn't a bad shift. But then I had to do Allison's shift, which was the 6 to 10 shift. And that one was a little bit more taxing in terms of sleeping and where you live, and having to borrow your mother's basement so that you could get to work early. But all in all, it was a good experience. I must say I enjoy myself working on the radio.
Okay. Ambrose, I know that you're a veteran at this thing, so tell us about your experience on I know you've been on CETA 90.1 FM for a period, and before that you were on radio otherwise. Tell us about your experience with gospel radio.
Well, with gospel, you find that there is the reach. There's a reach out there. And I know sometimes we minister, quote unquote, the hardcore gospel. And when I say the hardcore gospel, Christ came, he died for us, and he was crucified, etc., etc. But there are those other subject areas that lend itself so nicely to the gospel. Things where we refer to those everyday issues that we may have as individuals. Man, we have a problem. We are in trouble. We need help. We need the gospel. We need a savior. And this could be applied in every area of life. And individuals, then we can reach individuals out there going through something once we touch one of those problem areas. Take, for instance, simple. You may know my area basically is relationship, sex, love, those kind of things. But take the area of sickness. Sometimes someone struggling with sickness or alcoholism, and then you bring up one of these subjects, and then it hits someone right where they are, someone that might not necessarily have gotten it. There's something that I heard some time ago about a radio angel. Sometimes I heard Octavia speaking just now about speaking to yourself, really, but you really do not know who you're speaking to when you speak into the darkness like that. And so therefore you are a radio angel for somebody they're going through something. You'll be surprised how something that you say connect with some wandering soul who happen to be not listening to you, you know, just flicking through the radio at the time. And at the time that they hit where you are saying something that their soul really need to hear. And at that moment, then you become a radio angel that God is using then to connect with this soul. And that is powerful, Sean. That is so, so powerful sometimes.
Okay, I just want to pause here and let the persons who are following with us online know that they can send in their questions, comments. Even if you have a testimony that you want to share with us about the impact of gospel radio, you can send it in to us on our various social media feeds. We'll be glad to share that testimony. We'll be glad to answer that question for you. So we need you to get involved with us as well, because that's why we're here. Now, Ambrose, you just provided for us the platform from which we can transition into the question. Is gospel radio still necessary today? So I'm going to let you, because you just paved the platform, so I'm going to let you go and answer the question and tell us, in your opinion, what you think is necessary.
So Sean, it is true that there's so many different platforms that individuals are listening to, that they get their information and they get their entertainment and things. You have social media and et cetera, et cetera. However, the individuals still listen to radio. There's that individual on the job that is still tuned in to the radio. There are those individuals that still carry, believe it or not, their little transistor. I see them in the construction industry, they're carrying their sets and they're listening. So therefore, yes, there's still a need for us to bring gospel on radio. There's still a need for, I mean, you would say the disc jockey. I prefer to say the radio angel, that voice that, that God uses to minister to that wandering soul who says something, because I've experienced it. You've had experienced it with individuals, like I said before, flicking through. Look, it is so necessary. Where else will they get it? And you can ask the questions, what else can we do? Maybe we need to break down some segments into some programming into smaller segments, bite size. Sometimes when that radio angel is speaking a little nugget, sharing maybe sometimes a testimony, an experience that happened, sending out a word, like someone just mentioned earlier about the violence in schools, a word towards that. Like I said earlier, we are sick. We sometimes as human beings, we are sick. And we need a positive word in all of the negative things going on. And God can drop a nugget into the bosom of one of these radio angels, one of these radio announcers, to just send a message, maybe to a teacher, maybe to a student, maybe to a parent going through a tough time. You don't get that no other way, Sean. It is absolutely necessary.
All right, Darian, I know last week I was listening when you were on with your father, and you interjected with a comment that and I thought to myself, yeah, this is a gentleman I need to have on this week. So tell us, I think I already know what the answer would be, but is gospel radio still necessary today?
Well, the short answer is yes. The long answer is definitely, if we look at how we live our lives today. Let's think about the newspaper, how we got information traditionally and how it is now. At least for us in St. Vincent, we have a weekly newspaper. It will come out every Friday. I know in some countries they have daily newspapers. But when you put down that newspaper, you finish. Whether you went there for news or whatever updates or your favorite writers, when you finish reading that article, it's done. That's it. It's almost like a chewing gum. Once you've gotten the flavor, it's done. Radio is non-stop flavor. And if you really want to add the gospel to that flavor, don't make me preach, but oh, taste and see that the Lord is good. So, you know, it is not, if you come looking for non-stop substance, radio is it. You may have on the television, it would mess with your eyes after some time. The only thing that would outlast everything is radio. So is gospel radio necessary? Yes, more than ever.
Okay, Octavia, your chance.
I also think it's necessary because now listening to Ambrose, hearing that we can call ourselves radio angels, we never know who may want to hear something or hear something different. And at that moment, like he said, you turn on the radio and then you get that special nugget of something that encourages you for the week. So yes, in my opinion, it is also necessary because even traveling on the roads in the vehicles, when you're listening, say for example, to Theta Radio from the 8 to 9, you get music to keep you moving, keep you going, and you can't watch TV then. So the only thing left to do is the radio, because you can't go to social media either because it's not supposed to be driving and using your phones. So the only thing left to do is to turn on your radio. So yes, I believe it's also necessary.
Well, given what you have said, I was looking at some statistics and stuff here in Barbados, and we have I think about 2 gospel stations. Like there's a third one, but there are 2 main gospel stations. And when you look at the information, the gospel stations aren't in the top 3 here in Barbados as it relates to being the most popular or whatever. And the listenership to gospel radio is really not, say, anywhere close to comparing to what the secular stations are pulling in. So since you're telling me that it's so relevant, how can we make it, that is so necessary, how can we make gospel radio more relevant so that we can broaden the scope and have more people listening to gospel radio? Darian, you can take that one.
Okay, how we can make it more relevant? That is if we apply certain, should I say, topics, we discuss certain issues. Because no matter if you're a Christian or not, we all go through various problems. We all have to pay bills. And I think I'd go out on a limb to say none of us really like paying bills, especially when they're increasing. So, we all have families and we have to manage relationships. So programming that would deal with these issues in a proper way where you can get good conduct. For example, last Friday here on Praise FM, we have a program, well, every Friday called Praise Lime. And that lime, in the Caribbean, when you're liming, you're hanging out. But our lime is an abbreviation for Living in Ministries Excellence. But it deals with real situations we have. What do you do if you have a teenage child who gets pregnant? What's the biblical approach? Do we start to argue? Do we put them out? And we look for biblical references. On that program, I take the part of being the unsaved person who primarily just wants to argue and to do it on their own, to find their personal solutions rather than looking at biblical solutions. So if we take real life everyday problems, there is a biblical way to handle these issues. In scripture, it tells us if a man be overtaken with a fault, whatever that fault may be, you which are spiritual ought to restore that one. And we all have faults. So I think if we have programming that is engaging, that captures everyday life, persons will say, you know what, there's a better way. Rather than me, I can't pay my bills, rather than me going to drink rum and just waste myself further. There's a way. What happened, how Jesus provided in scripture just in the nick of time. There is a better way. So I think that would be my short answer on how we can make things more relevant and applicable to persons. You use scripture to see how we handle modern day problems. And even give encouragement.
About that program you were telling us about, how long is that program for?
It goes from 8:30 until 10 every Friday. And then on Saturday afternoon at 2 p.m., we repeat it for the benefit of those persons who have missed out on a Friday, whether due to work or traveling or whatever it may be.
So it's a live calling program then?
It's a live calling program on Fridays, but Saturday is just the repeat of what was done live.
Okay. Ambrose, I know you have some very interesting views on how we can go about making gospel radio more relevant to the masses, given your experience with working with young people and stuff. So let's share some of these ideas, because if it's necessary, we're gonna make it relevant.
But that is true, but that will just set a whole heap there. If you're dealing with life issues, practical issues, and one, you can get sponsorship. But if individuals get solutions that work, and that is the thing. Once you get solutions or workable solutions, he said that he took the role of the unsaved person that likes to argue. Now people come home, children, young people go home, Sean, to homes where they're drunken fathers, absentee fathers, and these kind of thing, and some delinquent parents, and they go through a lot of stuff. Now, if a young person know they can tune into the radio and get help. I find sometimes that when it comes to gospel radio, we don't get the promotion as often as we ought, or in the areas that we ought to. We do not get necessarily the aggressive advertising where individuals will go where the youth are and let them know that this is coming on. Like sometimes you get the competitions going on in the schools and in the youth groups to drive people to some of the radio shows that you have the big fetes and parties and fairs going on. When it comes to the gospel radio, you do not always get the kind of entertainment event. You do not get the concerts going on, the rallies going on, which will bring out the young people and then point them in the direction of radio. Sometimes we depend on the same radio to do the advertising, to drive the people to that spot. I find that if we take these sessions to the students where they are, if we take them to the parents in the PTAs, if we take them to the parents at the schools, if we take them to the parents in the churches, and then drive these individuals, because sometimes when you speak to some young people, they don't even know that there's a gospel station going on out there. Unless you ask the question and then you yourself, you're introducing them to it. And they have a number of issues that gospel radio deal with so effectively that they can benefit from, Sean. But we need to do a better job. Yes, sponsorship is vitally important, but we need to go out there where the young people are and let them know that we have solutions, we have programming out there for them as well, and that works.
So you're saying, Ambrose, then that the marketing of gospel radio might be one of the challenges then?
Yes, I am saying that, yes, the marketing, and I'm not negating the sponsorship. You may need some sponsorship in some of these areas, but we need to let the young people know the things that we have out there for them. And not only the young people, the parents as well. So we can reach the youth and adults by putting on activities for them as well, reaching them where they are, taking some of this programming to them and allowing them to know. I like the idea where Darian said there's a live program and then there's a repeat. Now, the thing with that is that the individuals that listen to the live program can encourage individuals to listen to the repeat program when it comes up. Now, I am saying we can take that a step further with all that we have going on, and that is going into the schools. One, the students, that's a captive audience. Two, PTAs, and then people know that we have this programming going on for them, because other than that, you have to go and sit on a PTA session, etc., to get this kind of information. If you can get programming like this, and not only in this particular field, but in other areas, other practical issues that individuals are dealing with, then that drives people to you as well, and you can get help. And it's right there, and it's for free. Therefore, yes, I'm saying we ought to market these programs a lot better.
Okay, Octavia, if you don't mind, you said you had 2 children. How old are your children?
My daughter is 15 years old and my son is 11 years old.
Okay, good. So they're engrossed in social media and stuff. do you find among the younger persons though that radio is as relevant as these gentlemen are trying to make us believe?
No, no. They are distracted by too many other mediums, even if it's the YouTube to listen to the same music that the radio is going to be playing.
Hmm.
So no, it's not going to be as relevant to them as it would be to us, unless we
Yeah,
can
yeah.
find a way, like Ambrose said, to make it interesting. I was going to say, for my one part, where I live, I would be able to turn on the radio and pick up one of the set list stations better than any gospel station. So there and then, that is my problem in terms of being able to listen to radio, even if I, well, that is my problem. Well, not being able to listen to radio, because before I would have tried my hardest to get the gospel stations, in terms of in the morning you get to hear the radio, you get to hear the different announcers speaking, the music to help kind of like get you going and moving. But in order for me to hear the gospel stations, some of the contractions that I have to use and to make to actually hear a gospel station, sometimes it can be frustrating. So then sometimes you just go without even turning on the radio. So I guess that is one of the areas then the gospel stations will have to work on first, because I live in St. Lucie, and like I said, the reception in St. Lucie, the St. Peter area there in Speightstown, even in the radio, turning on the radio, you get like a lot of static in that area. So it can be frustrating trying to listen to the gospel station, having those interferences, as opposed to just, for the lack of a better phrase, flipping it to 98.1 or flipping it to 95.3, where you're hearing it crystal clear from St. Lucie straight back up to St. Philip. So again, going back to my children, in terms of the younger folks, unless we can find a way to make it interesting for that age group, like from the 11s to the 25s, 30s, they're not really gonna listen to radio.
Mm. Darian, I want to pick up from something Tamara just hit on. I know that you have some experience with this, and the whole idea that she was saying. Well, I think you know Barbados, and Lucy's really far though. I mean, Tamara, really, really far. You probably need a visa to get there most of the times. But other than that, how can we improve that here in Barbados? Because it is a challenge. And I know in St. Vincent, there are mountains and stuff. How do we get around that, where the secular stations seem to be beaming wherever in the island you are, but when it comes to the gospel stations, we seem, I don't know if it's a transmitter problem. So maybe you can shed some light on that for us.
Well, yes, it is. And you know, Barbados, you're not alone with that issue. Here in St. Vincent, Praise FM doesn't reach every home, also because of our terrain. Lots of our mountains and so on and so forth. The issue you're having in Barbados, like we are having here, and I would imagine around the world, lack of equipment, more and more. I'm not sure, when you drive by, sometimes you look, you would see a cell phone tower every, you know, ever so far along the road. Equipment, in order to capture every pocket of the island, you need more equipment, more transmitting sites. Those are added costs, which brings back to what Ambrose was saying, to a sponsorship. In order to do more, and I tell you, even in the US, everywhere is not even covered with cell phone signal. You would see competing companies, when they advertise their commercials on TV, they give you a coverage map. And there's always some dropout spots. And they try to say, hey, we cover more, but you wouldn't hear them say we cover all of the US. Equipment, more transmitting sites, that would fix that problem. But in fixing that problem, to reach more, to help people to get crystal clear sound, there's a cost to that. Who is going to pay that cost? How do we manage that cost? So it comes back to, like I started by saying, people understanding the value of the gospel. If you think the gospel is important, you would invest in it. That's just the best way we could put it. If you think internet is important in your home, we would cry about the bills, but we would pay that internet bill. Similarly for electricity. So it's like the scripture says, where your treasure is, there's going to be your heart. So the short answer, equipment is necessary, but there's a cost attached to that equipment. And it really should be those who are enjoying the benefits of the gospel. They should be the ones helping to bear the cost of having the gospel reach them.
Well, and the thing about it is that the costs and the marketing and the advertising, I think, is very important. But one of the things that you find as well is that there are many Christians who don't listen to gospel radio.
True.
And they're very proud to tell you that they don't listen to gospel radio for whatever reason. And I think that again presents us with a challenge, because if we can't get our own to listen, then how are we going to convince the ones who are not part of us to listen as well? And how are they going to be encouraging people to listen to something that they're not listening to? So you see, it seems like yes, we need the advertising, but I think we also need to galvanize the people within the body of Christ to really get them to understand the value of radio and its importance. But I still want to piggyback on what Octavia said about the young persons as well, having so many choices, because I think sometimes that we forget that there are many choices. I have a daughter who's about 21 or so, and she would tell me straight, I don't listen to radio because there's too much talking. I want my music when I want my music. So there's Spotify, there's Apple Music that I listen to, and I don't want to be bothered by hearing announcers. So how do we get around that challenge? Well, I think is the important. Yes, go ahead, Dario.
No, I was gonna say it's easier, like Octavia mentioned, right? So her 15-year-old and the other one, they're more into gadgets and so on, maybe on their phones and social media and doing stuff. So how do we get around that? It's a mentality. We have to train people. We have to help to culture that mentality to say, look, this is something that is good. Now, for those persons who just, I don't want to hear somebody keep talking, we want music. So I think Octavia mentioned she was on like a 2 until 6 shift. So within that, those hours, you may have 30 minutes of music only. So you would play that music only. So there should be something for everybody. I've learned that you cannot please all the people all the time. That's an impossible task, to please all people all the time. But you could give somebody a taste of what they're looking for. For example, almost all children like ice cream, but you can't feed them ice cream, all day long. You need a little vegetables in there, and then you need some meat in there. So it's just a matter of balance, and I think a proper mentality, how we approach what we do. For example, how powerful is radio? We went from these terrestrial radio stations that all of us listen to when we drive in our vehicles. There's satellite radio now, XM satellite radio. Nobody would invest in satellite radio if it weren't giving us something. So there are now hundreds of channels that you can tune into. There are some people that you tune into a specific satellite radio station, maybe to hear preaching only. Some may want to hear reggae only. So there is a piece of the pie for everybody. Now, for us as a complete gospel station, all you need to do is share that pie properly. I wouldn't say equally, but I'd say properly, because you may have a larger appetite than I would. So you have to know your audience and share that pie properly.
Ambrose, I can see you jumping off your seat, so you can go ahead.
Well, the truth is that all of us have interests, even the young people have different interests. And I can think of, the things that Octavia and Dario said, it seems like the secular world have found a way to do this thing with programming so well And yes, okay, so you have the ice cream lovers, those i.e. your music lovers that want just the music, no talking. Then you're those that don't mind the preaching. They're those that listen just to hear the presenter's voice. But what do your audience want? And what do you want to give them? What do you want to give these 15-year-olds, these primary schoolers? What do you want to give them? Do we have enough research officers to do the research in these areas to find out what these individuals want and need? And then, like I said, if we target them and we do programming just for them, and we ask them then to send in their favorite music, etc. And in between there, we punctuate it with the hardcore gospel that they're getting some hardcore ministry in between there, regardless of what they said, because if they're choosing out their music, if they're part of the programming, etc., depending on how we build it out, you will find that they're listening just to get it. If you have your request time so that they're hearing their name, listen in just between X, Y, and A, B time, and hear your favorite songs and in your favorite tunes. It is about the programming, how we set it up, how we reach out to them, how we cater to them, because you hear them saying these things, but then you hear them speaking about some of their favorite announcers. I don't want to get into calling some of the names that they listen to in some of the Bashmans Hour and all kind of thing that they will have from time to time. You know what I mean? So if we get in then into some of this thing where we are catering for them, yes, and when you go to the school, they never heard gospel artists and stuff before, but when you take some of the gospel artists to the school and you see the reaction to some of these gospel artists that they never heard about, they never knew existed, that even if you reach them with it and you say to them, and listen, I'm going to be on City Radio at such and such a time, I want you to tune in and give me a shout out and all kind of thing. You will see reactions in these areas. So what I am saying is that we need to find ways, yes, to reach them, go where they are, form that connection, form that relationship. We need to find new ways of doing them. Like I said, sometimes we depend upon the same radio to announce, to pronounce, and to promote. And what we need to do is go where these individuals are, spend a little time in that area, do the research, see what they want, and we will find that we can reach them, we can touch them, and not only that, we can impact their lives.
No, Octavia, Ambrose mentioned the taking the gospel in sound, and you're a jewel here. You are an announcer. Sorry, a radio angel, but you are also a gospel artist. So how can we bridge that gap, in your opinion, so that we can bring some of these younger persons into the fold to keep gospel music relevant to them as well?
Well, as a gospel artist and a new gospel artist, I can say, I guess without apology, an opportunity to actually hear your music on radio.
Wait, stop. Octavia, you talking to Darian and St. Vincent. I mean, St. Vincent, you can't be talking to SAR Crisis the Acts at all. So I think we play. Go ahead.
No, why I'm saying that is because I remember back in 2017 when I first brought out my first single. I sent in my music because you keep hearing all the time, send in your music, record your music, send in your music. But then, to be honest with you, when you send in your music, sometimes to actually get it played on the radio, it is very, very challenging. So imagine you listening to a radio announcement saying, go and record your music, send in your music. You go to the producer is going to charge you no less than $1,000 to record one song. you take that step, you send in your music, and then your music is not played. Sometimes when you, for my one part, and I'm not calling any names or any stations, back in 2017 when I realized that my music wasn't being played, I made an inquiry, and I was told that my voice is good, the lyrics are good, but I will not play your music. Point blank. So that in itself can be very, very discouraging. And to be honest with you, I was done. I didn't want to do any more music after that. So then that is when I started to put my music on YouTube, because I know YouTube is not going to tell me no. So it can be discouraging as young artists to be asked to produce music and then point blank get an answer like that when you inquire as to why the music is not being played.
Well, Octavia, you probably should have sent the music to me, but by the way, Darren, you might want to speak to that, because I know for a fact that they're responding to Octavia. There were challenges, Octavia, with some of the music that we received at the time in terms of quality. That was what the sound engineer was saying. I'm not saying your music, but I mean in other instances that the quality may not be fit. But I can leave that to Darren to explain that it's to fit for radio and fit for listening in your house.
Okay, so I'll start by saying the last thing that you said. A lot of the times, well, let me begin by this way. I wasn't blessed with the opportunity to receive Octavia's music, so hint, hint. Quality rarely is a big deal. Having quality music, and I don't mean lyrical content, I mean the mastering of your music and everything, because it helps you as the artist. So when somebody hears you singing whatever your song, let's just say Amazing Grace, it's Amazing Grace with class. So a big part of it is quality. Now just imagine not having the proper quality in the background, and you live somewhere like where Octavia lives, where the sound is still even scratchy reaching you. You know, so if I go somewhere and I hear, well, artists A, B, and C, you know, they sound like they're croaking. You know, even when they're singing Amazing Grace, I'm hearing the chickens in the back clucking, because people really mean well. People really mean well. And for Octavia to would have spent good money, good decent money to get a proper production, to have everything ready there. One cost I think a lot of artists miss. We would pay for studio time, we would pay for musicians, but when it comes to the very same station that you, and Octavia, I'm not beating you on this, but being in St. Vincent, this happens to us a lot. A lot of people forget, how about I make a contribution to the very place I would like to help me promote my music? Here we have a saying that one hand doesn't clap. We need both of us together to really make it happen. So you are being given a platform. The gospel is for everyone. But remember earlier we mentioned we want more and more people to hear. So there's a cost. So give some sort of a contribution. Don't email in the music only. Give a contribution. How can I help? Would you like me for an interview, and maybe I spend 15 minutes to encourage new gospel artists like myself, to encourage musicians? Don't go out and play secular. There's a group of people here, some Christians that would like to record. So we can encourage each other. Octavia has a powerful testimony where she was discouraged when she didn't get the result she was hoping for. Spending a 15-minute sharing that could help to bring some encouragement to somebody who wants to get it. So then they would say, you know what, before I spend all this money, let me call up my local gospel station. What is the best way we go about this? Perhaps could you even sponsor a track or two on my album? I'll give you some credit. So we work in partnership. We work it today, right now, and this weekend, while we're doing this, it's Gospel Fest weekend in our nation. There's certain shows, events I am missing to be here, but this is important. There's so much gospel talent we have. But how about we partner with each other rather than giving me the final product and say, help me? Okay, sure, I can help you, but after today, after you make it, do you help us? Same, the same gospel community. Can we do this together? So I liken it to you're interested in somebody, you want to get married to them. You don't turn up on the wedding day and you say, you know what, I love you, so we're gonna get married. Let's walk the journey together. So sometimes it's just the way we don't really see how we're doing things. So I'm hoping even this, what we're seeing this evening, gonna assist somebody with an inclination towards stepping in the gospel arena as an artist. It's a partnership. Well, it should be a partnership, because your ministry doesn't end after the last note on your song or your album. It continues. Even as we would reference it with secular radio. In St. Vincent, I know in Barbados you all are different with your yellow band and the red band buses, but in St. Vincent, sometimes the first concert many artists have, and I don't mean gospel now, secular artists, is in our minibuses. As a little boy growing up, let me tell you, for the Barbadians who don't know, most teens, most school children, young adults up to 25, if you own a minibus here, they will not take your bus if your bus doesn't play music, if it doesn't have a good heavy sound system. They will not take. You could be the world's most careful driver. You're going to be driving you alone. So a lot of our artists, secular artists, their first stage is in a minibus going to school. You may not remember your school work, but you would remember the lyrics or the bass line to whatever the artist is to their song. Now, if we were to take approach, there are Christians who own minibuses here. If they were to take the approach, you know what? Let me play the gospel. So I may not get to know Octavia by face until I see her on stage, but oh, I know her, ma'am, I have 3 favorite songs for her even before I meet her. Why is that so? Because we have a partnership from the start. She would have invested, yes, in her production costs, but also invested in the radio station that she wants to help her to take her to the next level, which also helps to promote her listening audience. So we grow together as family. So these, in terms of radio management, these are some of the challenges we're having. People are coming to you with sometimes excellent quality music, but say, hey, with this, please consider making a contribution, because we mentioned lots of the secular sponsors wouldn't do it. So without the radio in the first place to promote your music, there is nothing. So I think the mentality needs to be changed for all of us. And we see it as more of a partnership.
And Darian, thank you very much for your, and thanks for missing out part of your gospel fest. I hope you get back there soon, but thank you for what you've just shared, because I similarly have a similar view. I believe that sometimes there are so many avenues for gospel artists to get together here in Barbados. We have a lot of, we call them bandstands and all kind of areas where open spaces where you can get together and hold a concert. In the States, they got pop-up concerts, hold a pop-up concert and do these things, partner with a radio station. And on partnering, I know Ambrose is very big on using, he has a lot. So Ambrose, tell us, because I know in your events, you use a lot of gospel artists as well to partner with your agency in order to promote your event. So tell us how you get it done, and maybe that will help to encourage some other artists to do what Darian has said and recognize that to get the music played, we also have to contribute.
Well, the truth is, Sean, I just asked a question. I call gospel artists to tell them what I am about to do. The biggest one you would know of is our VIP, the VIP, the Back to School Rally. There are a couple of things that we have planned coming up now, new things that we are working on. I'll share them with you a little later. But yes, the VIP, by virtue of being young, we say to young persons, you are very important persons. and that's a red carpet event, etc. And we would invite artists in to sing at these events, or between 800, 1,000, 1,200 people generally turn out to these events to be acts. And we started out with all local artists. We started out with all local individuals coming out to these events, individuals pledging to live a life of purity and abstinence, etc. And these events, I mean, one year when we had it at the People's Cathedral, individuals were shocked that we had so many individuals in there a Friday night and into the overflow and everything, Sean. But yes, these events are usually very successful. And although they're done around the theme of youth, young people, we generally get the parents and the grandparents coming out and walking the red carpet, etc. You know, because of the way the things are packaged. Like we said, we generally reach out to the churches, but we also reach out to the schools as well and get individuals involved. You know, the disappointing thing about that is that we only do it basically one Friday night, and therefore we cannot get all of the students from all over the place, all over the island down on that particular Friday night. But like I said, we're working on other things, Sean, coming up. But how we get it done is we speak to the artists. Well, there's generally a committee that will look and see the theme around what we are doing and invite those artists in. Most of them will give their consent, and they will come down and do their ministry on that evening. What we will also do, Sean, around that is bring in someone with a testimony surrounding the theme that we are going with. And we have had, we got lucky the first year where we had Daniel Williams, where a buddy of mine in St. Vincent, Calvin Charles, was bringing in Danielle. And in order to get her there, she was passing through Barbados, and he invited us to put her up for the night. And that is how we got in contact with Daniel Williams. So Dario, I don't know if you would know Calvin Charles. I know when I met
Yes.
Right. So I am thinking he took me to a couple of radio stations, and I don't remember, but I think yours was one. But that was a few years. That was a few years ago. So that is it, Sean. We got lucky that first year when we had Danielle in, and I say we got lucky, and that's because of my connections out of St. Vincent that was setting up a major thing with Danielle, and that's how we got her. And then later on, we got lucky with Dr. Ian Cummins as well out of Trinidad, etc. And then I was invited to a session in Trinidad where I would have met Sean Daniel. And look, God just opened doors. We say, I am saying got lucky, but you know, it's God. All these things are really God, is really God opening doors and pointing you in directions from time to time. And then the session that we had, Sean, at People's Cathedral, where someone said they were blown away to see the involvement of all of the other churches sending down their church buses, their coaches filled with young people, and they were amazed to see that. But we operate in partnership, Sean, as you know. So we wrote to the churches, we wrote to the pastors, we wrote to the youth leaders and told them what we were doing, and they sent down their people by the busloads. And you know what? It was, those things were resounding success, and we will continue to work in partnership, Sean.
Partnership.
All right, so I am hearing partnership, which speaks a lot to community.
Yes.
I'm hearing we need to partner with each other and stuff like that. And we have a few minutes more to go, lady and gent. And I really want to finish off looking at how because we have already covered that it's necessary. We're already covered that it can become relevant once we make some tweaks. But now, how can we develop these partnerships or this community where, like, for instance, Darian was saying he hasn't heard about Octavia, and so that we can build these bridges so that gospel radio can be big in Barbados and Vincent, but around the world. So in closing up, how do we build these partnerships or these linkages? How can Praise FM link up now with Christ is the Answer Barbados, other than the Sunday services, in order to promote the gospel artists like Octavia, or who is big in St. Vincent? Any ideas on that, Darian?
Well, it starts with a session like what we're having right now. So for example, I'm sure Christians, they have passports too. We would want to travel too. As a matter of fact, I started coming to Barbados Gospel Fest for many, many years. And I just couldn't wait for it. Now, if we go ahead and, okay, let's say I come and I realize, you know what, Sean is having a launch event for the Barbados Gospel Fest, or the VIP event for Ambrose. You know what, there's something I could capture from this and try in my community back home. I can get maybe 10, 15 people to come to that VIP event in Barbados. You know what, so while I'm there, you know, the guest artist was Octavia. Oh, Octavia would do well in St. Vincent, because people may not want to hear me as a man, but Octavia has a softer touch. So she would have an impact that I could never have. And when we start to see, you know what, it's a very easy way to do this. It starts with a little maybe online search. What gospel stations are there in St. Vincent, in Barbados? We send an email. Then we make a video call, put a little face. I would like to visit Barbados. Can you recommend a place to stay? Now this would come in where the corporate sponsors will say, you know what, stay at Ambrose Guest House or at Octavia's Resort. So we start to build linkages. So next time I come to Barbados for a gospel event, I say, you know what, the accommodation at Sean's Castle was perfect.
That sounds good.
I like that. You know, because as Christians, we all have these needs. We all want to travel. We want to have a good time. So it starts with like an event like this. So now we're discussing, now persons are listening, you know what, there is an avenue, there is a way to do it. So let me take a plunge. Let me go to the next VIP event for the students in Barbados. Or my church, whatever parish, St. Philip, wherever it is in Barbados, you know what? Let me go and find out from somebody who went to last year's event. Is there any real worth out of the session Ambrose had? And, you know, okay, yes, you had these 2, 3 gospel artists were there. The children had a good time, and the testimony resounded with those in attendance. So now next year we want to make it bigger, and we invite somebody who hasn't been there. You say, Praise FM, you know what? I want you to take maybe half an hour, at least just the testimony segment only. So this is how we start to form linkages. It starts with a little legwork. Let's say, you know, no gospel station in Trinidad, maybe, or in St. Lucia. Do a little search online. Then you find out who it is. We invest maybe $5, $10 in a phone call until we could, you know, do these online things for free. And we start somewhere, but we need to invest. If you're not investing in what you're doing, it will fail. It's maintenance to do the upkeep as well. Today I'm meeting Octavia for the first. If I never call her back until Christmas, that relationship wouldn't really be the strongest. So as we invest, we need to maintain our investment in order to see these intended returns.
Okay, thank you. Octavia, now, we've been sharing a lot about, so how do you think we can go about, or how would you as a gospel artist now look to invest and connect so that your music gets out there, but also the music of somebody in St. Vincent gets to Barbados as well?
Okay, well, just back in March, Joshua Ali from Trinidad would have placed on his social media, he is doing a new rhythm, and all gospel artists are invited. And I guess at the end, he would choose, led by God, because I think that's what he said in the end, who he would have chosen. So I started off by saying this year, 2023, is for me. So I said, Lord, he asked for gospel artists to connect with him. I'm going to ask a question. The only thing that he can tell me is no. So I did that. Long and short of the story is I was able to get on the rhythm. I am one of 14 people on that rhythm. And in terms of partnership and connection, that is probably the first time that I have felt welcome in the whole gospel arena, other than when Allison and some of the other ones here would have helped me on my journey. He would have done the rhythm. He mixed and mastered it. He even got interviews for us in Trinidad. I remember when I told you guys that back in 2017, when I said, announcer said that he would never play my music, and he went as far as saying that it would not even be played in Trinidad. After the meeting, the DJ in Trinidad asked me for all of my music, and I was able to send my music to him in Trinidad. I don't know if it's being played, but the main fact that he asked me for it, I felt like if I had accomplished something, and you know, it made you feel the connectivity and the partnership. And from that group, they were able to help you in terms of how to get your music on the social media platforms, and they gave you a lending hand. I think that we here in Barbados need to, for lack of a better phrasing, help along the ones that are now coming, because we really, really need help. Up to now, I don't know how COSCAP works. And to have somebody that would have gone through it to be able to come and help you with it, that speaks volumes, because it then shows you that they are not up there doing their thing and leaving you down here to try to now scramble to reach even halfway to where they are. So partnership really is important. And Darian, I can send you my music too, just give me email address. And from being then in the group with Joshua Ali and the others, while I was at CETA, I was looking for the persons that were in the group music on the CETA radio listing, and I was able to play one or two of them, because that would be my way then of helping them, giving them back a helping hand. So it really does come along to a partnership and helping.
All right, well, thank you. Lady and gentlemen, we have about 1 minute left, so I'm going to ask each of you just to wrap up briefly. Share any final thoughts you want to share with us this evening. I think it was a very healthy and very good discussion that maybe we can follow up with at a later date. So Ambrose, I give you a chance just to wrap up. I know I was saying wrap up briefly to you, Ambrose, is probably an insult. I do apologize. We're almost out of time.
No, right, okay, no problem. No, but I welcome something that Dario said. But I want to say in a nutshell, and this is with the sponsorship when you're sending your music and stuff. I know that we are in the habit of buying space on radio, but the radio stations do need that help as well, that financial support. And I am thinking, you know, Sean, that we really do need to maximize our space. I know we think about widening our space and our reach, but sometimes we really do need to maximize the space that we are in, impact it so much that it overflows. And this is coming out of something that Dario said. And I'm hoping that after this session, we can connect some more, because I do think that we can maybe export some of the events that we do here locally as well. I think that was coming out of something that he said. But yes, there's a lot more that we can do to work together, things that we really don't think about because we get comfortable in our own space. And I'll stop there, Sean.
Darian, you got a few moments to wrap up, a few seconds.
Well, I would just like to say, you know, in the gospel area, first of all, in Christianity, there really should be no room for competing against each other, but complementing each other.
Yes, yes.
Complementing each other. So I don't see maybe the gospel artists from St. Vincent as better than those from Barbados or than St. Lucia. We are different. We bring a different flavor. You all may not know it, but even Bajans, when you sing with that Bajan accent, and we love to hear it. You know, so as we complement each other, we can't get away from it. We need to invest in each other. We need to look here in St. Vincent on supermarket shelves. We have juices that are made in Barbados. We have products that come from Jamaica. We have red mango from Trinidad. Why should there be no gospel from these other countries? So let's invest in each other as we invest in the gospel and understand there is a cost and be willing to bear that cost. Jesus did the ultimate cost bearing, which was the cross. We're not asking you to get crucified, but maybe to crucify flesh so we could love each other and operate together.
And Darian, I have a request. I want you to send some good Vincentian gospel music to us here at Grace is the Answer, please, as fast as possible. Preferably calypso too, 'cause I like calypso. Just my preference.
So you see, even with that, now that flavor. So I will say yes to you as we exchange each other, and make sure Octavia is in that list, because I would love to see the day when Octavia is an artist here in St. Vincent, maybe for a weekend. You know, even as we do tourism island to island and so on, perhaps Ambrose may have his VIP weekend in St. Vincent maybe next year. Headlining that event would be Octavia. You know, so things like these we can do. It's not impossible. You already have family on the ground here in St. Vincent. So
right,
this is how we do it.
All right, Octavia, you get the chance to start us off. You get the chance to close us off.
Well, I welcome that thought, Darian, because you said we have family. I don't necessarily have biological family over there, but I was able to meet Sherry Denny, and she has become, I could guess, like a sister from another mother. And I also have Hayden Bill and G's number. So, you know, it's good to connect. And enough for myself in terms of, again, a young gospel artist. I'm not young as in age, but I'm a young gospel artist. I heard what you said in terms of when you're sending in your music to send, you know, help the radio station. I agree with that, but my problem also with that is that, you know, as a young gospel artist, you're asked to pay the money to send in the music. Then we don't have a problem, because obviously we want our music played, but then, you know, sometimes we still have to go and sing for free. So sometimes it's like you're paying up all the time, and sometimes, you know, it's also a battle of still being able to actually get your music played. That is one of my problems. Again, like I said, I don't have any problem ministering, because that's what God called me to do. I know that is what he's asked me to do. I have no problem writing these songs, and I have no problem ministering them. Again, to close off, partnership. Help us as young artists. We really, in some cases, need help. We really, in some cases, need the whole role model. Again, like I said, I want to right now give kudos to Allison, who is also on CETA Radio. To be honest with you, if I didn't have Allison in my corner, I probably would not have been here right now or continuing with my music, because whenever I slack up as one of the persons that are seasoned in the area and seasoned in the field, she really is one that lends a helping hand and make sure that I don't fall off the bandwagon. So that is what we as younger gospel artists need, someone that is there to keep us accountable and to make sure that they are seasoned to push us forward, also to make sure that we also get a chance with our music.
Thank you very much, Darian. I do think that we need to talk though and see how we can, you know, have some of the programming from St. Vincent on CETA and some of the CETA programming on your Praise FM as well, and see how we can build these linkages, this community of radio stations. I must say that tonight we started out talking about the necessity, but we've ended recognizing not only it's necessary, but we need to build a community.
Yes.
And if we build that community amongst each other, then we can see great things happen with gospel radio, not only in Barbados and St. Vincent, not only the Caribbean, but around the world. So I want to thank each and every one of you for coming and sharing with us tonight. I do think we need a part 2 to discuss now how we can build this community of radio, this community of gospel artists, this community of programming, VIP programming and stuff as well, so that we can really and truly see the gospel of Jesus Christ expanded around the world, because in the end, that's all it's about, spreading the gospel of Jesus Christ in the various media that we are exposed to on a daily basis. So thank you very much, Octavia, for coming along and sharing with us. Ambrose, thank you for coming.
My pleasure.
And Darian, I really do appreciate the opportunity for us to meet in the flesh. As much as
Looking forward to it.
you know, thank you very, very much for coming and sharing with us, especially since you shared that you've given up so much. to be
No, but
with
this
us.
is important. This is what I love doing. This is extremely important. I wouldn't miss this for anything, because this is the start of helping somebody, of helping another generation of not just gospel artists, but Christians to broaden their mentality and say, you know what, we really can and should do better. So this was definitely worth it.
Yeah, so thank you very much to everyone. And we're definitely out of time. I want to just share that I encourage everyone to tune in and to our services during the week to attend. There's services here on Wednesday night, which is online. Also, there's no Friday night prayer meeting because that's a bank holiday here in Barbados. But we all look forward to seeing you in church on Sunday morning, bright and early, God's willing. So thank you again for sharing with us. Thank you again to all those who logged on. I hope that the information was valuable and helpful. And we thank you and God bless. Have a good night, everybody.